Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
And what's it gonna do?
It doesn't matter how you're doing. Woo! Wheeling, dealing, limousine right, jet flying.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Would you please shut the hell up?
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the human rubble.
What up, what up? Welcome to episode 108 of Keep The Kayfabe. I'm Mike, sitting here with my boys, and I am ready to talk some wrestling.
Woo!
I'm still fired up after this awesome pay-per-view that was on AEW this past Saturday, Full Gear, at the Prudential Center in New Jersey. Wow, we have a ton of matches to get through tonight. We're looking to see who King Booker is. If you haven't checked out the prediction show, I would encourage you to go back to see what the picks were that we did, but we're going to cover them anyway. So you guys just do whatever you want to do. But what I want to do right now is I want to introduce the boys, and over in Glendale, a man that keeps it regal, and now a dastardly heel, Steve Grobschmidt. What up, Grabby?
Because I am Steve, the human suplex machine. Beat me if you can. Survive me if I let you.
Oh, yep.
And for those of our listeners, since this is not a video podcast, Steve even has the hood over the eyes, like he's ready to come to the ring and
like
put
Darth
someone
Maul.
on the Taz mission.
That's right.
Definitely. Yeah, that's Steve. That's one of your favorite lines by your boy, Mr. William Regal, is it not?
Not the one I just did was Taz.
Ah, fuck my ass. Okay.
Well, I'd rather
yeah.
not. It's a family-friendly podcast. But.
True. Well,
the night
Dash
is
one
young.
for me right off the bat. Yeah. That's okay. Well, I'm just trying to, tee up for what we got to get to later. I'm just
I think we're
chomping at
all
the bit.
anxious to talk about Lord Regal.
Big time. All right, Steve. Well, great to see you. Nonetheless, let's go down to Bayview. Introduce my guy. He's keeping it freshly squeezed. Yes, he is. It's Mr. Matt Michelson. What up, Matt?
Well, I'll tell you what. You guys may not be great, but this last pay-per-view was. It was simply glorious.
Fucking A. Yeah, that was silky. You sound great tonight, man. New
Feeling
haircut,
good.
silky voice. Yeah, looking good, feeling good. Keeping it Triple H, eh?
All day.
All day, every day, baby. Good. Well, yeah. Last week we had our friend Gary sit in. Charlie was out of town on a work gig, and it's just going to be us three tonight. We're going to cruise through these picks. We're going to recap the picks. We're going to recap the awesome pay-per-view of Full Gear, and we're going to see who is King Booker. So let's just dive right into it, fellas. This happened Saturday night. I know you guys didn't watch it live. I had the whole family down here. I had pizza and wings made, opened up a nice bottle of red. My son Gino, it was his first big pay-per-view. He was like into it. So I was sharing stuff with the boys. I was fired up. But yeah, after we all got to see it, I'm placing this as one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. Maybe just a hair below All Out 2019, in my opinion.
Wow.
What do you guys say?
I almost agree completely. And I think you meant All Out 2021 because, in my opinion, that was the greatest pay-per-view of all time. But I digress.
Is that the one we went to, right?
Yes, that's the one we went to.
That is what I meant.
Okay.
Dash 2 for me. Sorry.
Perfect.
Fuck his ass a second time.
That's right. So, yes,
Just
I do
DP
agree.
me, baby. DP me.
Overall, yes, I totally agree with you, Mike. We've talked about it a lot on the past few episodes. AEW, I feel like, has really... The magic hasn't been around for a while. And I think we've all agreed on that. We may have even said that on last week's episode. Man, I tell you what, after the first match, even halfway through the first match of this pay-per-view, the magic is back. And it felt so good watching this show. There were 3 matches on the card that legitimately I completely forgot I was watching a wrestling show analytically, and I was into it. I was hooked. I was like Steve Grobschmidt at a live show when Ray Phoenix is about to jump off the top of a steel cage. I did not care. I was marking
On top
out.
of William Shatner or something like that.
It could have been, yes. So phenomenal show. I'll talk more about what those 3 matches were as we get to them. But yeah, I agree with you, Mike. This was a phenomenal pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. Steve, any opening remarks before we get into the matches?
I mean, I'm gonna just echo that. It was really, yeah, just top to bottom, really good pay-per-view. I mean, only one match, which I'm sure we can predict what it is, but when we get to because I watched it the night after or the next morning. No, I couldn't wait until the next morning, which was my plan. I started watching it at 10:30 p.m. Central Time, and I stayed
Awesome.
up till 1:30 watching it. But I did fast
Oh my
forward
God.
through one match, which I think we could probably guess which one that is. But everything else was great. You know, I even started getting antsy because I wanted to see the main event and see what happens, but I could not do the injustice to any matches by fast forwarding them. I watched them all because I just knew they were going to be good, and they were.
This pay-per-view is like listening to a really good rock album where you just started at the beginning and you gotta listen to it all the way through.
Yeah, it's like listening to any week of Keep the Kayfabe.
Exactly, you get it.
Thank you for that, Steve. Perfect. So yeah, I can't agree with you guys more. So let's just get into that opening match because I was hooked, line, and sinker. We all predicted the first match, as any good prediction show is on Keep the Kayfabe. I chose Saraya. God damn it. Saraya as the opening match, as well as Matt. Steve, you picked the Elite, and Gary, he picked I think the 4-way here. So nobody got that, so we were already -1 to begin with, but that's
I was
okay.
the closest.
You were very close, but that does not count for a point.
No, it doesn't.
But as I saw the steel cage dropping, I was like, oh fuck, they're really gonna do this. I mean, that is just incredible. Great opener. I thought it would be like, I was considering it as the opening match, but I was like, keep the cage up there. Keep the, hang a bloody piece of meat over a Shark Tank, which is the Prudential Center, New Jersey fans for the steel cage. So that's why I picked what I picked, but I'm so happy they did. I picked Jungle Boy to win, as well as Steve and Matt. Gary picked Luchasaurus. Love the pick, but sorry, Gary. You started 0 for 1. The boys and I 1-0, which is great. So just, I'll let you guys elaborate on the favorite parts, but I just knew the stars were aligned for this pay-per-view. It was really, really early in the match when Jack Perry's face was up against the fencing, and there was a thick piece of blood that just slid down the cage, and that is just the shot. You can't buy that can't be produced. It was just perfect timing, set the tone for the whole night. I'm like, okay, this is how this is gonna roll. I'm sure Tony Khan was like, probably felt like he did 50 bumps of blow seeing that piece of blood run down the cage. So I was like, great. But yes, Jungle Boy did end up winning, which is great. What was your favorite part of the match, Matt?
Oh my God.
And Matt, was this one of your favorites?
This was. So this
Yes,
was
I knew
the first of 3 matches on the card that I just loved. Admittedly now though, the first 5 minutes of the match, after about the first 5, I genuinely was thinking, oh shit, this is going to be just a fart of a pay-per-view. And thank God that was not the case. I don't know what happened in the first 5 minutes. They just did a lot of heat spots with Luchasaurus, just, destroying Jungle Boy, which is fine. But once they started to turn it on a little more, man, this match got going. A few spots that stick out, Mike, to answer your question. I think the Canadian Destroyer off the chair by Jungle Boy onto Luchasaurus was awesome. The choke slam through the chair is always just a brutal spot to watch. The one that honestly was really simple, but just so well delivered, I thought, was the pile driver that Jungle Boy gave to Luchasaurus. It was super slow and methodical, and you could hear the crowd coming up as they set up for the spot. And then when he stuck it, so good. The match ends with Jungle Boy doing an elbow drop off the top of the cage, which was awesome, right? And whenever AEW has a cage match, they go all out. You always know there's going to be some spot off the top, and there was. I honestly feel like this match could have gone either way. You could have had that spot, which they did. It still would have been phenomenal, even if they hadn't had that spot. By the time they got to it, I felt like these guys have done everything, and I am so into this, and I'm ready for the finish. I'm really glad they did that finish, but I would have been totally fine if they didn't like that. And that's not very often I would say that. So Yeah, this was a great match, and I was off to a great start watching it. And I mentioned again the magic of AEW. This match had that. It's a storyline that I feel like has been beaten to death and honestly wasn't good anymore. Suddenly, I'm back into it. Just great way to start the show.
No, I loved it. I can say enough good things about it. I thought it just was emotional. You know, it was like this was like the continued coming of age story for Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and like just to overcome his friend, and like like out probably behind the scenes, these two were like super excited to actually finally get to wrestle each other because they've been a team so long. So I mean, like, as performers, they probably were super, but like in the ring, it looked like it was agonizing, like these two buddies that had to like fight it out. And I don't know. This is the magic of not overdoing things in wrestling, because I don't believe Jungle or Luchasaurus has ever tapped out. So then, he taps out. This was if he's ever going to tap out in his career, it needed to be this match against his old friend that he betrayed, and he did. And it was just perfect. And I just think, then, Jungle Boy with his family and all that, it was just, I mean, I almost said his parents, but he couldn't do that because his dad's dead. But
Yes.
there.
You're very correct on that, Steve. Jungle Boy's dad is very dead. And something that isn't dead is their contract with Fidel Sassoon for Ultra Curls that AEW Jungle Boy and his family are now doing, and they're going to be running commercials at the breaks in the picture-in-picture on this upcoming Dynamite. Did you guys read that?
Have to.
I did not.
It's totally false, but it should be. Total joke. But no, Matt, that spot off the top of the cage, such a simple elbow drop. But, if I was a young lad who still thought all of these things were not, choreographed and these wrestlers didn't take one another and actually were trying to hurt each other, that would hurt so bad. So it was such like an appropriate finisher. Like if you drove the point of your elbow into the abdomen off of 20 feet through a table, Jungle Boy fucked up his ribs pretty bad on that table spot, because he didn't really hit the table at all. His knees landed on the mat. The side hit the side of the table. So, he took a licking, but the way that they used that instead of pinning to go to the snare trap, expert. And I love that
Perfect.
Christian Cage was not like so much of a player in this, because like you said, Steve, but Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus have been friends for a long, long time. They've been doing this for a long, long time in this company. They need to do this on their own. They don't. Christian has served a great service to them and their story. But I'm happy they're like, let's just get him out of here. He cheated, and that was it. Boys, go do your thing. Have your moment.
Yeah.
And they did. They crushed it. It was phenomenal. But yeah, Gary was the one that dropped the point there. We were in a good spot. The next match, again, if there was any blow left in the building, it would be probably done for Death Triangle and the Death Triangle
Popped
and
himself.
I'm so sorry. I keep bringing up the cocaine. I feel like I'm not into that, but I'm just so fired up to talk about this pay-per-view with you guys. Versus the Elite. Second match after a steel cage with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Come on. So, 6-man tag. We all picked the Elite. We thought no brainer. Go back and watch the prediction show.
I really did.
This was like, it's their company. God, Death Triangle definitely deserves it, but it's never going to happen. Well, expect the unexpected, people. This was the most beautiful swerve of all time. This is a match that Jim Cornette would absolutely hate because of all the flipping and spots, and just like if anybody actually took the punishment of like a triple super kick to the head 15 times after, getting moonsaulted off the top rope outside the ring, like your brain would be scrambled eggs. So there was like an element of like far-fetchedness, but this is just like an acrobatic, like this should be in the Olympics. Chris Jericho actually just he's like, I'm ready to pitch this as like an Olympic event, pro wrestling. Yeah, fucking right. That's hilarious though. But this is like the epitome, top-notch athleticism that this sport has to offer was put on display in this match. it was spot after spot. It was highly entertaining. They wrestled for 18 and 40 minutes, but Death Triangle comes away with the victory. Ray Phoenix uses the hammer that Pac has been wanting them to use forever. Well, you knew it was coming. He used the hammer when he was up in the one-winged angel. Nobody kicks out of the one-winged angel. He was forced to use the hammer because if he knew he was getting dropped down in that finisher, titles would change. Well, Ray Phoenix back up against the wall, did the right thing, won it for his team. Death Triangle over the Elite. What do you think about that, Steve? Was this?
Oh man,
I mean,
yeah.
were you Triple H as fuck for this or what?
Yeah, because I mean, what I like is like, yeah, we all got it wrong, and that's great. And, there was none of these picks. I should say there were maybe a couple, but few of the picks I think were like, oh yeah, that's a no brainer. This was like the only one, and it was like the one we were all universally wrong on, and I love when they do that. Now, I mean, they're gonna do a best of 7, which they announced later in the pay per view, which kind of still could set up for the Elite to win it, but
I mean,
not
how
at the
many spots
pay-per-view.
do they have? I mean, what kind of moves can they break out in a best of
Well,
7?
that's
Like they laid out like 50,000 in this last match.
That's actually maybe a great topic for another time, but it's like these are some of the greatest wrestlers on the planet, but potentially 7 matches. They're going to have to be real creative with some of them because they can't all be what we just saw.
And
Like
we're going to
there
see
has to
stuff
be a
we've never
fluke of
seen
one of them.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder if one of them will just be like a 1 minute match, just to do something, but because that's a lot of matches. But
Yeah.
no, I loved it. And I think and not only did Ray Phoenix use the hammer, but then he was just gutted over it afterward, which is great. So they haven't, it's not like, oh, he embraced his heel side. Now it's going to be this conflict going forward. And I think Penta was kind of more on Pac's side, like during the whole thing, like, oh, get over it. It's fine. We won. But
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, the
And
dynamic between the 3 guys in Death Triangle was so interesting. And these are the kinds of stories you never see in WWE. And, you start to wonder after a while, is there a reason it has not been done before? Maybe it just doesn't work. But this was something really different that I feel like we haven't seen before. Just to give my quick thoughts on the match itself, the entrance, God, it was such a feel-good moment seeing the Elite come back, especially after seeing Luchasaurus tap out to Jungle Boy, which how often do we see submissions that actually work nowadays, I feel. Just a lot of really good things done in a very clever way. The match itself, yeah, it was like a spot fest like crazy, which was just great. Like I loved it. Loved the whole match. This was my second favorite match of the night out of the 3 that I mentioned. So it was great. The ending was phenomenal. Pac trying to convince Ray Phoenix to use the hammer. Phoenix throws it back at him like, no, I'm not doing that. And I think we had speculated that Pac would break away from Death Triangle and go on a singles run maybe and leave, the Lucha Brothers to do their own thing for a while. That's actually not what happened. Pac insisted that Phoenix use the hammer, and Kenny Omega's about to deliver the one-winged angel. Phoenix has the hammer. He's like, I have no choice. It's either this or it's my ass, right? So he hits him with the hammer, escapes the one-winged angel, gets the win. The crowd, you could tell, was really excited by that, but also really like, we did not see that coming. And not in a bad way either. That's what was great about this. It's like, I did not mind being wrong about who was going to win this match. And especially because they then promised us a best of 7 series where you could see the story with Death Triangle unfold. It gives the Elite some time to rebuild their story and start something new. And we get some killer trios matches between these guys. Like, it's brilliant. Like, AEW really gave us something we didn't even know we wanted, and it works on every level. So, phenomenal match. Just great ending. Can't say enough good things about this.
Well said there, Matt. And I think we're probably going to get some stipulations, kind of like the stages of Jericho, how we had that with all like different types of matches with this best of 7. I got to think, which is a great treat for us fans heading into Winter is Coming and the holiday season. They're really just giving us just a beautiful gift. Yeah, they kind of deprived us for 3-4 months or however long it was with the suspension, but they're coming back strong. They're making up. And this match, literally all is forgiven, right?
And let's not forget the I don't remember the exact words, fuck you, punk, or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, there was like that happened, which I think we might see the inverse of this Wednesday in Chicago. But high drama.
Yeah. And that's must see TV too. So that's just great free publicity right there. Let's keep it moving. The next match would be Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose with Marina Shafir and Vicky Guerrero.
Oh, actually,
Um,
guys, sorry, can you hang on one second? I gotta go take a piss.
no
Oh,
problem.
this
If you want.
this wasn't the match that I skipped. No, I'm
Oh,
totally
really?
Yeah.
totally kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
you
absolutely was the match I skipped because I didn't give a shit about it. And then in watching, like, making sure I didn't miss
Yeah.
anything, I didn't miss anything. It was garbage.
Yeah.
It's well, okay, guys.
Okay.
Who is gonna follow Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy,
Well,
Steel
that's
Cage,
probably why they
Elite? Like, you literally have to have a palate cleanser. This is like the
that's
ginger
the perfect term for it.
after the sushi, the
Yeah.
wasabi that you just had. Like, you are fucking going crazy. I mean, you got to go get a little more blow in the bathroom because you don't know what fucking planet you're on right now.
Right.
Well, we
So,
are at the
yeah.
Prudential Center, so
Exactly. So
And
I
they said,
actually,
if you have an erection for more than 4 hours, you should seek a physician. So if they had
Yeah.
nothing but hardness this pay-per-view, you'd have to go see a physician. So they have to
Oh,
have
yeah.
kind of
and the physician would just say, "Are you watching AEW Full Gear?" Yeah, you
Yeah.
should just turn it off and take
Are
a
you
break
in
for
New
a bit.
Jersey?
yeah. Just hold out. The Nyla match hasn't happened yet.
Exactly. There you go. That'll get you limp.
Yeah.
So I actually thought I actually picked Nyla Rose because I was not paying attention, because why would you, to this story? And I thought, let's do a wild card. Well, we already got our swerve with the Elite. It's not happening here, but for a split second I thought it would happen. I ended up kicking out and going with the boys. I wish I didn't have I wish I would have paid attention to the story, because I wish I would have kicked out on a different match, but we'll get to that later. Nyla, she gets her little moment. They bring her out on a lowrider with hydraulics. Ode to Eddie, rest in peace. Also love cocaine. She ended up wrestling a match with Jade for 8 minutes, got people a chance to settle down a little bit, get their bearings. Jade retains, or gets back her title, we should say. But I mean, we don't have to elaborate too long, but we all picked up a point there. I did kick out and change it to Jade. And yeah, so that's that. Do we need to get into it more?
I don't. We
Go
don't need
ahead.
to get into too much more. Two things I will mention just for the sake of giving it some thoughts on the match. I feel like Jade was really uncomfortable in that ring gear she was wearing, because you could see a lot of moments where she'd pause and visibly like have to adjust herself, and just her face told this story like, I do not feel like I should have worn this while wrestling. So that was, I think that played into it quite a bit, and I've heard some other takes that are similar to that. So that was one piece of the match. The second is, it makes sense to put this match after the match with the Elite and Death Triangle. It's going to be a lot, like, let me just say, it's not going to be nearly as good as that match, right? So, Mike, you're right. It's the ginger after the sushi. Only, I feel like not only was it the ginger after the sushi, this ginger was like a month old and hadn't been in
Pickled.
the refrigerator. Yeah, it was not good.
And it had been run through someone's anus.
Yeah.
Yes. So not only was it a not as good match, it was the worst version of a not as good match. So the difference between the two is really extreme, which didn't help it at all. So yeah, really unfortunate. I don't know. I don't know what's next for Jade, but hopefully it only gets better after this.
I like both competitors, quite frankly. I think Nyla's surprised me in the past. I remain and have been from day one a fan of Jade Cargill, but I just feel like I feel like I still am convinced that it was Statlander to win the title, and then she got hurt like for a long time, and I feel like they've just put pause on anything interesting until she comes back, because there's
Right.
nobody. And I think Athena turned heel, so she's probably not going. Well, no, I mean, yeah, never mind. I was gonna say I think Jade's like maybe actually a face at this point, but I don't know. They got nobody right now. They're gonna have to really be think about this. Or maybe
Totally.
Statlander's coming back sooner than later, and they'll pull the trigger on that.
Well, and when the most interesting thing is about Jade Cargill wrestling whoever they want to throw her in there with is what comic book outfit she will replicate so poorly and
Yeah.
think it's actually good. Like, that's super distracting, super gimmicky. Does not make her more interesting, and I think they need to pull that back a little bit. But she's going after a niche market for fans. I get it, but yeah, let's move along.
Yes.
The next one would be Chris Jericho, current Ring of Honor champion, versus Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara. So this one was a pretty tough one to call. Steve and I picked Chris Jericho to win because it was a safer bet. Matt ended up picking Bryan Danielson, and then Gary actually had a very good case, and I thought it would come through. He picked Sammy Guevara. There was a time in this match where Sammy put the go to sleep on Chris Jericho or somebody, and it was a kick out, which made this match like, oh wow, yeah. If the competitiveness wasn't good enough, so they did tell a great story. The thing I loved about this match a lot, it was almost like worked in chapters. You know how four ways, like sometimes four ways are kind of dumb because it's like, oh, you're super fresh, like you just came out of the tunnel, you get hit in the face one, and then you're supposedly knocked outside of the ring.
You're
for
laying
15
out
minutes.
there for minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, until it's your turn to put on your part of the show. But and it was the case, but it's the way that they did it. Like, I thought Claudio and Sammy or Chris or Danielson or whatever, whoever the pairing was, everybody like just did their job. Everybody executed their job to perfection. Sammy, I thought, I mean, say what you will about the guy, we hate his guts. He's a little, biatch, but damn, is he good. Claudia is so good. Chris Jericho, legend. Danielson, legend. This is a dream match. This was a great story. They got a lot of time. It was 20 minutes. This was one of my favorite matches of the night because not every competitor in this match is my favorite wrestler, but I respect them all, and they delivered. But me and Steve actually picked up the point with Chris Jericho as the victor, and pretty crazy ending too. If you guys don't recall, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was a crazy ending. I honestly wasn't a huge fan of the finish. I feel like it was a little sloppy, which kind of took me out of the match at the very end, which after all that 20 minutes of great work was kind of a letdown for me. To your point though, Mike, I do feel like the guys all played their part really well. It was cool seeing different stories unfold over the course of the match. You had this friendship between Claudio and Bryan Danielson that we kind of saw along the way. We saw this weird tension between Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. Obviously, Jericho has beef with, the Blackpool Combat Club and history with them as well. And it was also great watching Claudio uppercut Sammy Guevara's face. So I don't know, just so many cool elements to this match. And yeah, it was not actually one of my 3 matches of the night. But that being said, it was still a great match. I probably wouldn't go back and watch it again. Definitely pay-per-view worthy, though. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, the only things I would add to that is, I would say I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't put it in my top matches of the night, but it didn't need to be either. There was plenty of, it just kind of speaks to the pay-per-view and how much good there was. But I guess if I had to highlight a couple things, one, Claudio, like, kind of was to me like the MVP. He just looked, I mean, some of this, he just is a beast out there. And it was like, and then, he kept beating Jericho leading up to this and like team matches. So I felt the safest that he wasn't going to win, but he still came out a winner in the match, I think, because he just looked so great. And Sammy, yeah, you said it. He's such a prick, but he's so damn good. I agree about the pay-per-view or the finish that I thought, he kind of botched the Judas effect and then had to do it again. One counterpoint I read was Jason Powell on ProWrestling.net said it, it was clearly they kind of flubbed it a little, but they kind of made it work because, it took 2 Judas effects then to take out Claudio. So it's like they I think he screwed up the first one, but like true professionals, they kind of made it look like, maybe they did plan this. So I don't know. Kudos to them for kind of salvaging the ending.
Yeah, everybody in that match is a true professional, so you knew you were in good hands. Yeah, I did forget about that ending. Up until that ending, I was super impressed. But yeah, Boys, really, really good stuff. Let's keep her rolling. The next match would be between Britt Baker, DMD, and her group versus Saraya, newly acquired by AEW. I can't help but like, does this woman see the sun at all? It still just amazes me how pale they can make her. She looks great, hot bod. She's got her brother ringside. She's obviously emotional. Her brother's emotional. This was just a really, really good feel good moment. Um we were in unanimous decision that Saraya would win, but Gary actually said no contest, which is a wild card pick, but I like where his head was at. New guy on the podcast, first time, do something drastic. That's how you get your name brought up when you're not on the result show. So good job, Gary, and thanks again for coming. We'd love to have you again sometime. One of the stipulations was we thought this might be the perfect match for Sasha Banks to come out. And we threw that out there if she would or not. We all thought she would not, except for Matt. So everybody gained a point. Me and Steve gained 2 points. Matt gained 1 point. Gary had a point, but he did not get his no contest. So this match was pretty cool. I thought Paige did a good job for not being in the ring, not being on a big pay-per-view. She held it together, as best she could. And you love to see the emotion. I love to see, this is what it's all about. I mean, these people put their lives in danger, in harm's way for our entertainment, and they live and breathe it. And she went through, some of the hardest knocks getting to where she is. They made a freaking movie about her. She's out for a while. She's having a good career outside the ring, but she doesn't even have to come back, but she does, delivers against one of the best in the business in the women's division in AEW, Britt Baker. I thought this was an incredible match. What did you think about this one, Matt?
I agree. One word I've used or heard used to describe this match has been careful. And it totally makes sense. Saraya coming back after 5 years, not being in the ring due to a neck injury. She wanted to be careful, and that's how they wrestled this match. Now, that doesn't mean that it made the match worse by any means. It was just, worked at a slower, more methodical pace. And I think that's a good thing. Like, you don't want to get her in there doing Canadian destroyers on her first night in 5 years, especially after a neck injury. At the same time, I feel like the match was fine. I definitely think the emotion that you mentioned carried it, a lot more than it could have been otherwise, which was great. It was a cool twist on the story. Britt Baker is an awesome wrestler, and I think that was really brought to light in this match if it wasn't already. Just because I feel like Saraya had a couple spots of offense that she executed that were okay. I think we saw a crossbody from the apron that was a little sloppy. Not that I would ever do one, but And so overall, it was cool. It was cool seeing her back. It was cool seeing her get the win as well. AEW putting some confidence in her and putting her over Britt Baker. I'm curious what she does next. I've heard rumors of maybe Serena Deeb being her next opponent, which
should be perfect for her.
It'd be incredible, if they want to focus on, working the neck injury, which Britt really did a lot during this match. I feel like Serena Deeb could do it in a lot more creative way that keeps your interest versus, elbow shots to the neck and things like that. So yeah, overall, pretty good match. It was not one of my top 3 of the night, but it's cool to see Paige back in action.
I agree. Yeah, I think it served its purpose. It was safe. That's the best word to describe it, which I kind of wanted it to be. I didn't want to get uncomfortable seeing her doing crazy shit that you're like, oh, she's going to kill herself, literally.
Right.
But so, it focused on storytelling. And I think some parallels was CM Punk's first match back. He had to kind of work the ring rust off and just told a good story with Darby. Didn't do anything radically insane. And I think, and again, MVP award to Britt Baker because I think Saraya even admitted it after the match that Britt definitely carried her because, she hadn't done that in years. So, I guess if you're a big Saraya fan, she passed her first test. That's probably the best way to say it.
Definitely. kudos for kind of put these two together right off the bat, if that was him or whoever consulted him. Because, yeah, like you said, Steve, I noticed that Britt was like, she really like shouldered the load on this, made her feel at ease, even with the promos. Um, Britt is very, very talented on the mic. There's no argument with that. And they built this match up to something really, really exciting. And yeah, just enough time, just enough buzz, nice right on the card, gave this, pound for pound, a lot of depth on this card. So let's move along. And the next match would be Samoa Joe versus Michael Wardlow, TNT champion, and Powerhouse Hobbs. This was the three-way match for the TNT championship. We were all in unanimous decision that Wardlow was going to win, except for Steve was the lone wolf and went his own way with Powerhouse Hobbs, which I was definitely rooting for. And out of the three in this, I never saw this coming, that Samoa Joe would end up taking this title. I actually wrote down on our score sheet, yuck, next to this match because I was so pissed. I was disgusted.
Mhm.
I couldn't even think with a clear head how maybe this could be positive. Wardlow doesn't have a belt anymore. Hobbs got snubbed. I hate Joe. He's got 2 belts now. Now he looks like a king-size mattress with 2 belts over his shoulders rather than just a queen. And yeah, I just can't stand that guy. I don't love it. I'm sure Samoa Joe fans were super happy, and this was like the most exciting night or moment of the night. But yeah, nobody scored a point on that. But what were you guys pretty pissed off about this result, or like what's next here? I don't get it.
It didn't do much for me, I'll admit that. And I respect Joe as a legend, but I'm kind of over him, I hate to say. I just feel like at this point, I'm not quite sure what they're doing with him. I don't know. It just seems like Tony Khan just is in love with him because he's a legend. But I think the only positive I'll say is that I feel like Wardlow, for reasons not his own fault, his title run has been a turd. Like the build up to it was so great, and his feud with MJF was so great, and his title run has been anything but great. And I think maybe this is just pulling the plug on something that's not working, and maybe they'll do something interesting with him now. Like, and what that is, I don't know. But I don't know I mean, I still don't know what the hell's going on with Ring of Honor, but yeah, now Joe's got 2 titles. So I mean, is this just so that he has something interesting in the AEW camp? Hobbs and Wardlow had a little nod, like half nod to each other. Maybe there'll be some alliance there. I don't know. But I'm not distraught that Wardlow's title reign is over because, like I said, I think it was a failure. But this is not how I would have had it end. I would have had Hobbs, who's the hot hand, get it.
Yeah, those are all really good points. I feel of all the possible directions AEW could have gone with these 3 guys, they picked the direction I wanted to see the least. And I don't want to think this. I think part of the reason behind it is because Ring of Honor Final Battle's coming soon, and it draws focus from one of AEW's big stars over to Ring of Honor. And how many pay-per-view cycles are we going to have to go through where this is the case? Ring of Honor definitely needs a TV deal like yesterday.
Yes,
because I think unfortunately, when Tony Khan is trying to weigh how much time and effort and star power do I put into Ring of Honor, every time he does that, it detracts from AEW, and it's gotten to the point where the fans can see behind the curtain what's happening with that. It's clear as day, and it really shouldn't be, because I think that's what's starting to cause some dissension with the fans. And I think this match, unfortunately, was a prime example of that. I'll tell you right now, I was on my phone for most of this match because the moves were just, I don't know. It seemed like the guys didn't really know how to play off each other. There was a spot where Wardlow went to do a senton off the top rope and almost slipped and fell, but then he just went for it anyway. And I think he hurt Hobbs's arm in the process. So I don't know. The whole thing kind of fell apart. And yeah, then they put the belt on Joe, which I don't know. I think of all the guys, he probably needs it the least.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine putting
Who
it on
cares
Hobbs
about
and then
him being
seeing
the champ? Nobody
right,
roots for him to be the champ, you know?
right, exactly. And now imagine if they had put it on Hobbs. You've
Right.
got Ricky Starks coming up in this world
Yeah.
title eliminator tournament. He doesn't need to win the tournament by any means. He could get eliminated from it and then get kicked over to a TNT title program with Powerhouse Hobbs. That'd be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then Wardlow could look on to something different. Joe still got the Ring of Honor TV title. They could build up some other opponent for him for Final Battle. To me, that would have made way more sense for all the guys involved. But unfortunately, that's not the way it played out.
Yeah, you made it. I mean, yeah, you said it right. Like that's how I feel about Ring of Honor, and we've said this on this show many times. I just feel like it's diluting the AEW brand. And then I mean, you're kind of seeing it for what, like you said, for what it is, because it's like, what was that, like 2 weeks ago on, or 3 weeks ago on, Rampage? They had Kanellis and like Taven and those guys make this big debut. And we haven't seen them since. It's like they just like they're throwing these little Ring of Honor seeds in constantly, and it's just like it's like I feel like, oh, just don't forget these guys, because when we launch Ring of Honor, you'll see lots of them, and it's like, well, I don't care about them the first time. It's like, I don't know. I really wish he'd get on with whatever the hell he's gonna do with Ring of Honor, because I don't need it in my AEW.
Right.
Did you guys recall seeing that move that Wardlow did pull out that we really haven't seen in his repertoire? It was like a corkscrew backflip, something off the top.
Yeah.
rope.
Yeah.
This is what I've been saying. Like, the dude has a lot of moves that people haven't seen yet, and I think he can grow that. And with the belt, I was like, yeah, people will pay attention. And I actually thought Hobbs and Wardlow were having really good work done towards the end of the match, but I definitely thought Wardlow was going to take it. And then out of nowhere, a stupid, belt over the head. How many times have we seen that? Nothing interesting, And the title goes to Joe. So, yeah, I was utterly disgusted, pissed. Still love you, Mike. Hobbs, I'm still with you.
Here's some food for thought. Who has been Michael Wardlow's biggest enemy thus far in his short career?
Just MJF.
Who's now the champ.
Oh,
now, I'm not saying they're gonna immediately have Wardlow win the title, but maybe they're figuring that this is gonna be a world title feud in the near future.
Well, I like that, Steve. That's good encouragement. That's the silver lining in all this, and that's why you get paid what you do to participate on this show. So,
which is a lot.
Indeed.
Absolutely. All right. Next match, Sting and Darby Allin versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal with Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh for a no DQ match in New Jersey. So I thought, I mean, I learned a valuable lesson here. Two things. Don't bet against Sting on these pay-per-views. They might just don't do it until he actually uses. Don't try to call the one that he loses. Take the loss of the point when you pick him to win when he actually loses. Don't try to get the win when he loses.
That's why I changed my pick. That's why
I'm no longer doing it. Okay? And then the second lesson is pay attention to your goddamn storylines with Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose. So I wouldn't have to burn a kick out on that stupid ass match / storyline, because I did start on my notes here to kick out before the end of the show after I would give it some thought, and you will see that this actually plays a heavy hand in the results of this show, so make sure you stick around. And the other reason I thought Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett would win was because it's a scuzzy team. Those guys are scumbags. And New Jersey is a bunch of scumbags. I mean, I even brought it out. I was like, this is like the perfect venue for this team to get the upset on Steam. And that's where my head was at. And it's hilarious, too, because I was doing a little work tonight, and I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Spit and Chicklets, hockey podcast, and I was a little behind, so I was catching up. And Paul Bissonette, Biz Nasty, actually said something on the podcast that made me feel not so alone in my take, when last week I was like, these fans there are a bunch of scumbags. They're doing key bumps off the key tokes before they go into the hockey game. Like, this is going to be the perfect match. So I actually recorded it and shared it with the boys. Matt, do we have that audio clip?
We do. And yeah, for those of our listeners who listened last week, you're going to hear a take that you heard last week from your one and only Mike here on Keep the Kayfabe. So big shout out to Spit and Chicklets for this clip. Let's hear what they had to say. Let's hear it.
And we're going to get to the building and how much that's rocking. Oh, crazy. I think I saw on TV the other night when they won their 9th in a row, some girl doing a key toke off a guy's cock in the lower bowl. That's how crazy things have gotten at the Presidential Center. But this guy has got a following.
Yeah. Well, he called it the Presidential Center. He meant the Prudential Center. This is where I get all my names wrong, and how I don't even try to fix it is because I listen to this podcast so much, and all these guys do is fuck up. But I mean, they're pronouncing Russian people's names, and it's a lot to, keep track and stuff like that. But yeah, Paul Bissonnette, same thing. Observance of New Jersey and their fans. I thought this would be the perfect place to get the upset, and I was wrong. Gary, Matt, and Steve all got that point, and
no shame.
Yeah, hey, who I thought really came up in this was the fucking big guy. What's his name? Satnam
I'm
Singh?
glad you brought that up, because honestly, I sat there, like, that was my big takeaway. I mean, the match is good, but that was my big takeaway. Is like, that's how you use a guy like that. It was perfect, and the fans actually got into it. I think it's the first time the fans got into anything involving Satnam, because they kept doing these catching guys and these crazy things, and then when they took him out at the end, everybody went nuts. So it was perfect use of Satnam.
Yeah, I think I have the perfect take on what makes every Sting match so great. And maybe this isn't the entire reason. There's a lot of reasons, right? But I feel like every Sting match has some element of 80s pro wrestling in it. What I mean by that is it has like an absolutely ridiculous character that just makes it laughable. Like, you're like, this is ridiculous. But then Sting is, a 63-year-old dude who comes along and dives, 4 stories off of something through some tables or something. And you're just like, this is surreal. I love it. Yeah, I was actually, before you mentioned that, Satnam Singh, he was my favorite guy in this whole match, I think. It all started when Darby dove off a 20-foot ladder and Satnam catches him and just carries him. Like, how sometimes you'll, like, if you guys ever go camping, you roll up a sleeping bag and you're packing up your campsite and you throw the sleeping bag over your shoulder while you're walking out of the campsite. Darby Allin was the sleeping bag in this analogy. And he just gets tossed back into the ring. At one point, Satnam's back in the ring, takes a bump. It's just, this match was ridiculous. And honestly,
so fun.
The one thing about it that I was a little disappointed with was the guitar shot from Jeff Jarrett. I thought the production team didn't really do a great job catching that. At least not as well as they could have, because it's like, oh shit, this just happened. And
that's AEW though for you.
Yeah,
their camera is not WWE quality.
Right. That is the one thing that I will gladly give them shit about.
Right.
Regardless of all that, yeah, the match was an absolute blast. There was a moment in the match where I feel like Sting seemed a little winded. Granted, he did do like a dive at someone, and his head just kind of disappeared out of the frame. It looked like he took a headfirst dive into the concrete in the crowd. So I was a little worried there for a minute that maybe he was hurt, but then he popped up a minute later like, oh yeah, everything's fine. Just kept fighting his ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great match.
Great synopsis, boys. Lesson learned for the next prediction show: if Sting is on the pay-per-view, do not bet against the guy. So, let's keep her moving to the next one here. This is going to be one of the matches of the night. It is Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm, the interim AEW Women's World Champion. Steve and I actually picked Toni Storm to win this. Gary and Matt stuck with their girl Jamie to take it. This was a I was texting Charlie because he's like, talk to me. So I was texting him back and forth when Jamie came out. There was like I just kind of picked up like a weird little vibe. Like something seemed like kind of weird. Like I think like maybe the decision got maybe switched. And then when we saw Toni come out, she looked a little pissed off. Jamie kind of looked like, oh my God, like this is my moment, like this is gonna happen something. And Tony was like, I think something weird happened. I don't know if you guys read anything, but that's just the vibe that I got. But the thing is, there is no reason to take the belt off of Tony Storm, but there is every reason to put the title on Jamie Hayter right now, as we've learned with the Acclaimed. When they're hot, strike while the iron's hot. It's going to be good for business. AEW did exactly that. And it's the interim title. It's not like it's the big kahuna just yet, but it's something. It's super significant. And what Jamie is doing right now in her influence with the crowd is super significant. So that is why you have a new interim champion, Jamie Hayter. Well done, Matt. Sticking with your guns, picking Jamie Hayter. How stoked were you, bro?
I actually slammed my fist down on the couch cushion on my couch and forgot that I had a drink sitting there and it spilled all over, but I didn't care. I jumped up and went, yes, after it happened.
Red wine, yes.
Yeah. This was the third match of the three that just made this pay-per-view great for me. To your point, Mike, yeah, I kind of got that vibe too with Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm both. Toni Storm, granted, though, she's had, 10 title defenses that have all been pretty good. Like, at or above what we've seen in the past from other AEW Women's World Champions. You mentioned the interim world title. Toni Storm's elevated that thing to the point where, in my mind, it is the Women's World title. I don't even think of it as an interim title anymore. It kind of irritates me when they make a point to mention that.
Yeah, when Thunder Rosa comes back, they just need to have her get beat immediately and get rid of that shit and get it on the people that have been earning it.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe Thunder Rosa didn't come back at this point. I don't even know what's up with her now. But regardless of that, yeah, Toni Storm, definitely you could tell something was different. Jamie Hayter had a fresh look coming out, which is usually a pretty good sign. I mean, it happens at pay-per-views, but there was a different energy in the air, like you said, Mike. The first half of the match was good. It was stiff. There was, spots, nothing really earth-shattering. The second half of the match, I think it was I'll say this, and this is kind of a weird take, but it was the best interference I've ever seen in a match. And I think it's because it didn't take away from the fact that Jamie Hayter earned the win, if that makes any sense. Like, it still felt like she did everything she needed to do. She could have done it without the interference and probably would have as well.
Yep.
But it definitely added to the story having Britt Baker sprinkled in there. There was a spot during this match, and I don't know if you guys caught this, when the referee ejects Reba or Rebel or whatever she goes by, and her acting when she just looked up and went, no!
Yes.
Was so campy. I actually laughed out loud at it.
Same here.
I love her.
But it was very entertaining. Britt takes a bump off the ring. Even after being in that match earlier with Saraya, I was really happy to see her help celebrate with Jamie Hayter afterwards, because we're not going to quite get the Jamie Hayter versus Britt Baker match just yet. But it's good to know that it's probably coming. So,
well, they're wearing your shirt. I love that. That was my favorite part, was when they were wearing Jamie Hayter's shirt. Be like, yo, we're here to support you. I'm not jealous anymore. I want to be your girl. You've been our girl. I mean, is this a swerve? Is she a snake in the grass, you think?
I think so.
Eventually.
The last thing I want to mention, I do want to give a shout out to Toni Storm. She was really good in this match, and she's been great in every title match she's had. Man, when her face was bloodied up and she just looked pissed and was really laying in some of those forearms, it became a really good match. You could tell it almost felt like a New Japan style match by the second half, where these women are just really wailing on each other. So yeah, I really liked it a lot. And obviously Jamie Hayter winning was really cool. The pop from the crowd when she finally got the 3 count after the 50th straight false finish. God, it was great. Just, I can't say enough good things about the match.
Before I turn it over to you, Steve, I'm glad you brought up New Japan, Matt, because Jamie Hayter kind of has that New Japan wardrobe, too, that kind of gets her even harder with these hardcore wrestling fans, too. She's kind of like the female Will Ospreay wardrobe kind of design of her wardrobe, which makes her even more interesting, in my opinion. And yeah, Toni Storm, she looked like she was on the set of Jerry Springer and got into her lipstick or the blood, the hair. If you're gonna drop a title, thank you, Tony, for making it look as good as you did by being as brutalized as you did. So yeah, cheers to you, Tony. What do you have to add for us here, Steve? I know you got
No,
something good.
not a lot. No, honestly, I think you guys said it perfectly. I think this match was one of the best of the night. I think the false finishes just made it like I was on literally the edge of my seat because it's like after how manyth time that Storm kicked out, I'm like, shit, they're not going with Hater. I thought myself numerous times, shit, that was it. She's not going to win. And I actually forgot that I didn't pick her. So I mean, I'm kind of glad I did because I was 100% on board with Hater. And then the
Right.
interferences, how many times have we seen it in wrestling where the interference is like, oh, boom, that's it. But like interference, Storm still kicked out. Interference, Storm still kicked out. So it was great. I mean, they really had you completely uncertain what was going to happen. And when it did, I let out a yelp too, because I was excited that she won it. She's so well deserved. It's not even funny.
New Jersey is riding such a heater right now. The New Jersey Devils actually won their 13th straight game tonight against the Oilers versus Connor McDavid, the best in the world. And the Devils have been absolute dog shit for like 3, 4, 5 years, long time actually. And now they get this, great moment. They get the elite back. I mean, everything is showing up New Jersey right now. And to make matters even better, why don't you bring out the Acclaimed and wrestle a little match and give Max Caster a few extra bars in his rap? You get 2 raps, like twice the bars. Like, I'm moving to New Jersey. That's it. I'm done. I mean, I don't have I don't love the nose beers, but I'll try to stay away. But if I fall in, I'm gonna need you guys to pull me out of that place if I get a cocaine addiction.
Let's just cut to the chase right now and pull you out. Don't go there.
I'll stay. I love my wife. I love my house. I love my job. I love my child and my dog. And you guys. And thanks for listening, everybody. Subscribe on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes if you love what you're hearing tonight. But anyway, this was the Acclaimed in the rubber match versus Swerve in Our Glory, Keith Lee and Swerve Scott. We've kind of forementioned that this has got to be the time where either Swerve or Keith turns on their partner. And we saw it happen. Swerve Scott piss Keith off. Keith Lee leaves the ring. He's in backstage, leaving Swerve on his own to get his ass kicked by the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed retain, still tag team champions. We had all picked that except for Matt. So Matt, tough pick, but I mean, I don't even know if I could have really agreed with you because I just love the Acclaim so much, man. These guys just kill it. I love the pink outfits. I love the crowd, how into it they get. We saw Daddy Ass come out. Everything is coming up Acclaimed.
Yeah, it was a fun match. It's like these teams have just put on so much good action over the months that I never would have dreamt that Swerve and Keith Lee would have been such a great tag team. I'm a little sad that they broke up, but it still was perfectly done. I think I was just giggling when it's like when he slapped him and you're like, oh boy. And then just to walk out like that was pretty great. I mean, but the match itself was, I mean, predictably really good. And they played off the fake injuries and all that. It was a nice end to that chapter. And now we got, I presume, Keith Lee and Swerve to look forward to, which will be one hell of a feud. And
Right.
they claimed on to bigger and better things. Hopefully not with like the Gun Club. I think they could do better than that, but like hopefully like FTR.
Yep.
Totally agree. Not a whole lot to add for this match. I do wish, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like the order of these matches at the end of the show was a little strange. Like we had the Sting party match, and then there was like 2 other matches before the main event. And I feel like over the last several pay-per-views, I feel like the Sting match is always like right before the main event. It's a great, like, let's get everyone in a good mood and like give them some fun so that they're really feeling it when we actually hit them with the main event, right? And I feel like the women's title match was great. Like, definitely put me in the right space. And then when they flashed the match graphic for the Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory, I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that match. Like, they could have completely dropped it off the card. I wouldn't have even noticed. And when we actually did get to the match, I thought overall It was good. Swerve's really heelish tendencies, I'm really digging it. I think it's really good for his character. The breakup of Keith Lee and Swerve, God, that was perfect. Yep, like you guys said, they couldn't have done it any better. It was great. Keith Lee just walking out, phenomenal. So, other than that, honestly, not a whole lot to add. It was solid.
Totally. Yeah, I'm happy that the Acclaim still have the titles. I'm happy to see. Swerve. I was really impressed with him. That dude is. I've never really paid him much attention, to be quite honest with y'all. It's not for any particular reason. There's just so many other people that I love to watch, and but he really did. I thought he was the MVP of this match. He has like this great technique, how he just fully extends. He's like, I don't know, like I feel like he could sit in, like if he was in the 80s or 90s, he could be in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie or a Bruce Lee movie with the technique that he has and the bod and just the flexibility. He's a really talented wrestler. So that's something that happened in this match for me was I learned something new. Swerve Scott is badass. So that team is disbanded. We'll see where they will go. Before we get to the main event, we have to get to one that I skipped over. It happened in the pre-show. It was Ricky Starks versus Ryan Gage. But we thought Ricky Starks was going up against Lance Archer. Was that like a last-minute decision or?
No, that was on Friday, and then they had this match,
Oh.
but they did make a last minute decision to make the final, which is Ricky
Yes.
Starks and I just drew a blank. Ethan Page at Dynamite.
Exactly,
So
because
that pick is on hold.
Exactly, and it does have a detriment to the outcome of our King Booker results. So everybody picked Ricky Starks to win on Rampage, but Steve and I are in disagreement. I had Ethan Page winning and Ricky Starks winning for Steve. Matt picked Ethan, so we're going to be rooting for him, new best friend on Wednesday. And then Gary picked Ricky as well. So we'll have to see how that one shakes out.
Yeah.
So the book is still a little bit open, but let's turn to the page of the chapter of the devil in New Jersey, the New Jersey Devil himself, MJF. What an appropriate place for the man to get crowned AEW heavyweight champion when he's been going by the devil in New Jersey. It's amazing. Yeah. I didn't even know that until it dawned on me maybe like a day or two after, and like, man, how poetic. So,
and not to add another layer to that, but when he
please don't blow my man, Matt. Please don't do it.
Well, remember when he returned to AEW after being out for a while, and he came out to "Sympathy for the Devil" by the Rolling Stones. And what was the premise of his story over the last several weeks? You felt sympathy for him to some degree. So they're just playing
layers.
With
my fucking God. Do they got William Shakespeare writing back there?
Nah, just Tony Khan. He's pretty good, though.
Yeah. It's all that blow.
Okay. So we all picked MJF to win this title. I mean, the writing was on the wall. Jon Moxley was already looking forward to his vacation when he promoted on Wednesday. But the big story was Steve had prophesized it 2, 3, 4 weeks before this that possibly MJF might have a new alliance in Lord William Regal. And evidently that came true. That had to have been so awesome. It was very well done. The camera work was really well done on this one to capture this part of the story. William was signaling to MJF, go check on the ref. Go check on the ref. Get him coherent, because he had taken a little licking so he could get the title. Well, as Moxley was checking on the ref, he throws the brass knuckles to MJF, who then uses them on Moxley to knock Jon Moxley out, pinning him in New Jersey. What a moment. Crowd explodes. Good story, eh? And congratulations, Steves. I'll give you 2 minutes to for your regalness.
It was good. I'm kidding. I know I got a lot more to say on
Shout out, Charlie.
it. No, that was good. Yeah, I mean, it would have been such a catastrophically monumental letdown if that hadn't happened. It was too perfect. They just told brilliant storytelling there that I'm so happy they pulled the trigger on. It just breathes new life into so many things. It just the perfection of MJF as this, yeah, the sympathetic. He's not a face, and never should be a face. Maybe later in his career, like when you just like Flair, he was the dirtiest player, and then later on, it just nobody could boo him anymore. So it's like, but he's not there yet. He's just got to be this bad guy, this loathsome bad guy. And it's perfect. I mean, I think Mox can go away now because I think he's long overdue. Regal, I mean, the Blackpool Combat Club's been fun, but it kind of stagnated and then it's been imploding. Pull the trigger on that. And then they did. And it's like, now it'll be cool to see what happens. I mean, him and MJF are like quite the duo. Who stands up against them? Does the remainder of the Blackpool Combat Club rally? Do they just disintegrate? Does Michael Wardlow get involved? I mean, there's so many things they could do with this that it was just great. And like you said, the camera work was great because it was like they had him well positioned. You could see Regal kind of stepping in the right spot so that he could slide that. I mean, they just had it all choreographed well, where he could just slide those knuckles, in which he's been foreshadowing like for weeks by holding them. And yeah,
Yep.
I had said last week that I thought they were going to use the ring, but that was even better because that was like Regal's thing, as the knucks.
Yep.
Totally agree. I loved Regal's face after he slid the knucks in and MJF wins and he looks up the ramp at him and you see they show Regal's face and he just gets this really evil smirk on his face and the camera
Yep.
caught it so well. Like
He looked like
yes.
Scar from The Lion King,
Yes.
influencing Simba.
That's probably the best description you could possibly come up with for it. And yes, you're spot on. Yeah, overall the match was good. I was pretty tired by the end of this, and I think that didn't really help my enjoyment of it. But honestly, the whole time I was just waiting. I knew MJF was going to win. The crowd hated Moxley in this, and he was just off that. Like he was flipping off the crowd. He went full heel in this match. So I don't think the result was ever in question throughout it. I think it was more a question of how are they going to get there, and is Regal going to be involved? Because we also, over the last several weeks, have seen the Firm somehow get involved in this, but they never even made an appearance during this match. So I don't know if that was some sort of a red herring and Regal was really the villain all along. I'm sure we'll find out Wednesday, and man, I cannot wait to watch.
Absolutely. I'm actually really happy that the Blackpool Combat Club are disbanding because I didn't think I mean, I wanted to like it more than I actually did. It didn't really do anything. It was almost kind of like, well, who was the Pinnacle better than the Blackpool Combat Club? Would you say, or vice versa?
I'd say vice versa.
You say Pinnacle was better than Blackpool Combat Club?
No, Blackpool Combat Club all day.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not. So I just want to get a consensus of where we're at with these guys. But I'm happy that's over. This world domination with MJF and Regal could be a match made in heaven.
And as a longtime Regal fan, as a day one Regal fan, we all, I loved seeing him come to AEW, and there was this like nostalgia, and like, he's, he was happy to be there. They gave it a respectful, 7, 8, 9 months where he was a good guy, but it's like now this is Regal as he should be. Like he shouldn't be this like feel good story for his whole run,
right?
And
totally.
Maybe that'll keep him from even thinking about going back to Triple H and WWE. Like give him something really meaty to chew on.
Definitely. And everything is in front of MJF now. Jon Moxley is going to fade into the sunset, take a much well-deserved break. Thank you, John, for everything that you did to carry it. Fuck you, CM Punk. Let's get to the results of this show. And
Yes.
for honestly having no one, like usually AEW for a great pay-per-view, we fucking, stroke it to this shit. When they have like a huge name revealed out of the blue, like Sasha Banks would have been that tonight. they put on a great pay-per-view with
Without it.
no addition. And
Yeah.
that's what made this so great. They used the tools that they had in the toolbox. They didn't outsource. They didn't bring somebody in. They didn't go for the cheap pop. They used the roster members that they're paying for. So very, very good stuff. So Matt and Gary are both at 7-6. So Gary, congrats. You had a winning record for your first prediction show on a pretty tough pay-per-view to call. So congrats on that. Matt, I'm sorry you didn't touch me or Steve, but thanks for playing, bud. I loved your picks, and congratulations on that Jamie Hayter pick.
Anytime. That's why I'm here.
So this is where it gets kind of interesting. Steve, you're at 9-4.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm at 8-5. You have Ricky Starks winning on Wednesday. I have Ethan Page winning on Wednesday.
Oh my goodness.
If I win, I tie you. If you win, you're the outright winner. If I tie you, the draw goes to the champ. So, the book is still open on this one. We won't find out who the King Booker is for the biggest match of the year and Keep the Kayfabe history between Ethan Page and Ricky Stark. But as a man of integrity, I'm willing to throw in this new stipulation, and I mean, we can edit this out. We should talk about it. I used a kick out. None of you guys used a kick out. If you use a kick out on the prediction show, or if you don't use a kick out on the prediction show, should that be an extra point?
No.
Because
I don't think so.
Because if you hang on to it, then it kind of defeats the purpose of the kick out too. So like when you use the kick out, you should be right when you use the kick out. And I think if you use the kick out and you don't get the point, I mean, that's insult to injury, I guess. So do we...
Yeah, I think you should leave it. I don't think you need to reward somebody for not using it. Yeah, I think that just puts more weight on Mulligan than Mulligan deserves.
Got it. Okay, cool. So if Ethan Page ends up winning this Wednesday against Ricky Starks, day before Thanksgiving, it's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I would retain King Booker.
It wouldn't.
2-time champ. But if Ricky Starks ends up winning, Steve Grobschmidt would be a 3-time champ. So that should be enough incentive for you to tune in right before Thanksgiving this Wednesday on Dynamite. Thank you all for listening so much. We still have a bit of business to get to with the promo of the week. But yeah, guys, any final thoughts on Full Gear?
If Ricky Starks loses, I'm going to send him enough nasty messages that it ruins his Thanksgiving, but no pressure.
Well, he's from New Orleans, and if he goes down there, you can't really have a bad time. Ethan Page is from Canada. You can't have a bad time either. I mean, I don't think there's anything we can do that can tarnish these guys' attitudes.
No.
Because your attitude is your altitude, ladies and gentlemen.
It's true.
And that is exactly what this promo is all about, coming up from Drew Zach from Delafield, Wisconsin. Gobble, gobble, keep the kayfabe, crew. Thanks, Drew Zach. This is the Gobbledygooker makes his first appearance in the WWE right on time for Thanksgiving. So how appropriate. Thank you so much, Zach. If you want to hear your promo heard on the air, just send it to Keep the Kayfabe at Instagram or Facebook, or hit us up on Gmail at keepthekayfabe414@gmail.com. So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Let's send it over to the Gobbledygooker and Mean Gene Oakland.
Here at the Survivor Series, and I gotta tell you, these great fans here in Hartford, Connecticut are red hot too. And you know, when it's so hot, so long, well, that means that the incubation is all over. And that means a lot of us are looking forward to seeing this gigantic egg, wherever that came from. I'm sure it had to hurt. But this egg is going to hatch here tonight. As a matter of fact, hold on. This cracks me up. I can hear it starting to creak and crack right now. Everybody has speculated as to what might be in the egg. Is it a dinosaur? Is it a rabbit? Balloons? Is it the Playmate of the Month? Huh, who knows? Well, the way it sounds to me right now, the speculating is all over. Whoop, stand back.
Oh, look at the
stand
crunch.
back. I think that egg is ready to blow. Oh,
there it is. What is it?
What in the world? Oh my God. What in the world is this?
I don't know what it is.
Take a look
Ron.
at it, ladies and gentlemen.
I know. You're looking at me like I don't know what it is.
A beak. A little rooster tail up on top. I don't know. They got a pair of legs like my mother-in-law, pal. Look at the feet on this thing. I can't believe. What in God's name is this? Holy. What? What is with the gobbledygook? The gobbledygook. Ha! Don't tell me you're the gobbledygooker. You've got to be kidding me. Is that all you do is gobble? Well, on Thanksgiving, what would you expect?
Greatest gimmick of all time, wouldn't you say,
my
boys?
God. you guys probably were too young, but I actually saw that live, and
Oh man,
that
were you
was
watching
one
with
of
your old man?
I might have been, but that was like truly one of the. Oh my God, what the hell? Like what the hell's Vince? Like those early stages of what the hell is Vince thinking? That was like such a fart in church, a wet fart in church.
Ugh,
That
yikes.
it was just a disaster. And it was like Hector Guerrero. It was like Eddie Guerrero's brother. It was like a real wrestler in there.
Oh man. Well, the only thing, I mean, you are right, Steve. That was a little bit before my time. I think the only thing I can say in response to it is
Perfectly said.
yes.
That wasn't a drumstick getting jammed down your throat. That was your best turkey call impression.
You know what?
Are you
though?
still hunting, Matt?
Not so much anymore. No, it used to be a tradition, like with the family and stuff, but we're kind of past that point now, and I don't get to spend as much time with them on Thanksgiving anymore. So no.
Because you got a new family, the Keep The Kayfabe family.
That's right.
Yeah. I gotta look out for these guys.
Yeah, not
You
the
know, I don't
Rosses.
know if you knew this, but I actually speak Turkey, and what he said wasn't gibberish. It actually was some good advice. I don't know if I think you could probably guess what that is.
No, tell us, Steve, please.
Really? You want me to tell? Okay. Well, it's three things really that turkeys always are mindful of.
What's that?
It's to stay hungry. Did I get it wrong
Dash
already?
one for Steve.
Oh my
See
God!
how hard it is,
You
Steve?
put me on
You
the
see
pressure.
How hard it is?
Damn
You guys
it.
fucking put. This is how it goes. This
Stay
is how it
hard.
goes. It's-
Show
I'm
us how it's
messing.
done, Mike.
Yeah. You know what? I think you know now what the turkey said, so I think you can take it from here.
All right, Steve. Give it to a pro that's flawless. All you got to do is stay humble, stay hungry, and stay hard this Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
What does that mean, Steve?
Triple H.
Awesome.
But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. Stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was a time for a change. Killed the Tsar